dedicated to empowerment, inspiration, and transformation. Engage with dynamic speakers, attend interactive conversations, and connect with amazing women just like you. The event will be hosted by the fabulous Unatingai. Don't miss out on this opportunity to celebrate and elevate yourself. Get your tickets now at www.quicket.co.za for 550 Rand, drinks, food, and a gift bag included. Plus, stand a chance to win an honor product. This incredible event is powered by independent media and the Honor 200 series.
The world's best cooking show is coming to S3. MasterChef South Africa Season 5. You'll meet 20 talented home cooks from around Mzansi, noma uphumapi, and no matter your favorite dish. See if the chefs can handle the heat in the kitchen in a race to be crowned MasterChef South Africa. Starts Saturday 13 July at 7:30 p.m. on S3, Channel 193. MasterChef South Africa, proudly sponsored by Pick n Pay.
#SFM Talking Point.
All right, let me head over to Cape Town. Dikela, good morning.
Cathy, good morning.
Yes.
I hope to be short. I've been holding on. Listen, Cathy, I really am excited the turn of times that we are living in now. I can't wait to hear what the president has got to say, because we have been, actually I have not had time to listen to them in a long, long time. Because I've been discouraged at the ANC, which I've been a member all my life. But for the first time, I see a positive change in South Africa, where indeed we can have that government that the ANC had, of everybody being made to feel that they belong into this country, that they can, with merit, contribute to the building of this country. I feel really vindicated in my thinking, in a way that, too much power has corrupted the ANC and it's led to its detriment. Trying to chip into what's in pure and the question that you were asking about the COSATU and the whole tripartite alliance, I think it's about time Solomon Paila walks away and the SACP go and be a standalone, because it's been very long. It's been really, this issue of the tripartite alliance that doesn't work has been canvassed ad nauseum, and they've been saying, they've been very unhappy. And it's more like, somebody who is in a relationship that doesn't work, but they somehow stick around because either the other partner is providing for them and they take the abuse. SACP and COSATU must walk away from the ANC and let ANC govern with the other parties, so that we can have the best of everybody, because it has been made to be that the ANC is the only party that can rule. And it's been proven that they really cannot, because the corruption in how they manage to keep people who are ineffective and unqualified, in key positions has led us to where we are. And just lastly, if I may, I find it very disingenuous for the Unhlamulo to come online or the Umkhonto to come and want to now maintain their relevance by dragging the GNU term that is being used by everybody, and they claim that SABC is behind the term. They have no space, because their formation was to safeguard Jacob Zuma and his children and his cronies from going to court and account for all the mess that he came. We are not in crisis. We are in a deeper crisis, and we are in desperate need for President Ramaphosa tomorrow to give us something to excite us more, because I really am excited.
Okay.
I really am. I'm in a small business, and I work hard for my business. And with the ANC, I have really begun to lose hope, but I'm very positive that we are.
And tell me, Dikela, because you're out in Cape Town, excited enough to go to the opening of Parliament tomorrow?
Like I said, I'm trying to work on my business. I'm just going to watch on TV, unfortunately. But Cathy, last week,
Okay, no, I've got to go. I've got to go, Dikela. I've got to go. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, Dikela. Bye-bye. We stand in Johannesburg. Good morning.
Good morning, Sis Cathy. Minjani?
Mifukile.
Yeah. Sis Cathy, I don't know if I'll be out of topic or making the topic enough.
No, you're not out of topic. What you want to talk about? E-hailing.
I want to talk about e-hailing. Sis Cathy, we're having a serious problem about this new app. As a being handle or ibereka juang, aina structure, aina plan. Yeah,
look, I heard there was a caller on Sunrise who also called in complaining about the Shesha app and what's happening out in Tembisa, and claiming that the taxi patrollers are the ones that are, stopping e-hailing drivers from doing their work, saying that people must now use Shesha in the area.
Yes, and the painful thing is, these people, when they stop you, maybe let's take you've been working since 4 o'clock today, and now maybe you have 500. They take all your money.
What do you mean?
They will make you like you feel guilty. Why did you pick up there? They will tell you that we are fining you 1.5 or 3.5.
No, but they can't do that, Wisani. They can't do that.
They are doing it, Katie. We e-hailing drivers, we are in trouble here in Johannesburg.
So they take your money.
They take our money. They will buy Chavi subsidy cases like oh.
No.
They will promise you to take your car, and because you are shaky, you end up giving everything that you have. I mean money,
Oh no, that is very wrong, Wisani.
It's very wrong.
Let me put you through to Kanya. You can give her more details. I think we'll be able to follow up on this. If not tomorrow, absolutely on Friday. Then let's get the officials to also come in and respond. You can't be taking people's money like daylight robbery. No, that cannot be allowed to happen. Dusty in Taung, good morning.
How's Cathy?
Dusty?
Everything. How's Cathy? I just wanted to make a small input. I won't be long. I just wanted to check, we've got cases of corruption in the country and in criminal cases in general, where people's things get stolen, and then the law in South Africa, I think, whether it's a Dutch law or whatever, does not cover the victim, in terms of compensating the person. Say, for example, like the VBS saga, where people looted poor people's money. They get convicted 10 or 15 years. What happens to the person that lost his last earnings that he invested in trying to make his own life better? I think it's about time that the government or the parliament or whatever institutions or bodies that are sitting legislate new laws that says if Dusty stole from Cathy and he was arrested, after he's been convicted for his 15 years, his assets and stuff must be taken and sold to make the person who the victim recover part of his money that he's lost. It might not be totally all the money, but I think some of the money must be given back to that person so that person can start his life again.
Yeah, fair enough, Dusty. Can't disagree with that. Dusty out in Taung, wrapping us up on the open line.
In our top stories, reaction by Teachers Union on Minister's remarks on Bela Bill, and MK Party accuses SABC of misleading the public over GNU term. Good morning. The South African Democratic Teachers Union, SATU, says there's no need to stop the signing of the Bela Bill into law as it has passed through all the right channels. This after the newly appointed Minister of Basic Education, Siviwe Gagube, called on the President to not sign the Basic Education Laws Amendment Bill into law. The bill seeks to strengthen governance in schools by tightening certain sections which have created challenges for the sector. SATU spokesperson Nomusa Tembi says it would be improper to have someone call on the President not to sign the bill after everything that has been done.
The consultation took over 2 years, and I think every province was consulted. There were consultations with all stakeholders. There were public participation processes. We believe all the processes were undertaken to ensure that most South Africans gave input to the bill. So what came out of the bill, we believe, was as a result of the inputs from all stakeholders and citizens of South Africa.
The Umkhonto we Sizwe Party says the SABC's continuous use of the Government of National Unity term is misleading and borderline unconstitutional. The MK Party has filed an urgent application in the High Court in Johannesburg to stop the public broadcaster from referring to the 7th administration as a Government of National Unity on its platforms. The MK Party spokesperson Nhlamulo Ndlela says the broadcaster's use of the term is a misrepresentation of facts as there are clear signs of a lack of unity within government.
Referring to this government as a government of national unity, when one, it doesn't represent the majority of the parties, because that's what that would mean. Secondly, it's uninformed because if you look at the history and they'd done the proper research, they would have identified that a government of national unity that was formed in 1994 was formed at the back of a crisis. Are we in a crisis? Were we in a crisis at that point in time? No. Now, for them to continue to use that terminology and misleading, in effect poisoning the public perception and mind around what this is incorrect.
Meanwhile, the SABC Group Executive for News and Current Affairs, Mushweshe Munare, says the public broadcaster will defend the latest action that the Umkhonto we Sizwe Party has brought against it. The party is seeking a hearing in August and to declare unconstitutional the SABC's use of the term Government of National Unity. 3 of the 7 men accused of gang-related killings are expected to appear in the Thohoyandou Magistrates Court in Limpopo. The accused are facing charges of murder, possession of unlicensed firearms and ammunition, among others. More than 10 men suspected to be members of gangs have been shot and killed in separate incidents in and around Thohoyandou in the past 8 months. Michael Mukungo reports.
The accused Mamita, Ngubane and Nevondo have been charged with 2 murders in Thohoyandou. They are accused of shooting and killing Calvin Situmule and Rufuno Mkese. They've also been charged with another murder of Sidwell Murauzi in Malamulele. Meanwhile, there are 4 co-accused, including a police officer, will also appear separately next month.
And finally, Elon Musk says he's moving the headquarters of his social media and space companies from California to Texas because of a new law on gender identity. Musk called it the last straw. The BBC's Suranjana Tawari has the details.
The law forbids school districts from requiring teachers to notify parents when a child changes gender identity or sexual orientation. In a post on X, Mr. Musk said because of this law and the many others that preceded it, attacking both families and companies, SpaceX will now move from California to Texas. Back in 2021, he moved Tesla's headquarters to Texas as well.
Recapping the top story, the South African Democratic Teachers Union says there's no need to stop the signing of the Bela Bill into law as it has passed through all the right channels. This after the newly appointed Minister of Basic Education, Siviwe Gagube, called on the President to not sign the Basic Education Laws Amendment Bill into law. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide.
And we will buy 500 cars and we will buy 500 more just to be the one who buys your car. We'll come to you and offer more. We buy cars, we buy cars. We buy cars, we buy cars.
We Buy Cars, the easiest way to sell your car by far.
In the heart of darkness, a beacon of light emerges. A brand new season is coming your way with your 2024 Miss South Africa Top 30. Hosted by our reigning queen, Miss South Africa, we embark on a transformative journey. Join us for the spectacular new season of Crown Chasers.
Crown Chasers is back.
Starts 29 June at 8:30 p.m. only on S3 Open Up.
The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
Welcome to the second hour of The Talking Point, 7 after 10 o'clock. Coming up in this hour, we're going to be getting into Citizens Corner. And today we're looking at school closures and the impact that this has on different communities. And really then what approach the Department of Education can have when it comes to closing down schools that has, almost that mitigates or lessens the impact of it on communities, but at the same time take into account the fact that there is a need for this rationalization program, as some schools simply do not have enough learners that are enrolled for the funding and the spending on those schools to make sense and to be justified on the part of the department's budget. So in the next hour, you'll be hearing from an education specialist. You'll also be hearing from Teachers Union and the Governing Bodies Association, and we'll also be in conversation with the spokesperson for the Department of Education in particular in the Eastern Cape, as it's the province that seems to be among those hardest hit by the issue of school closures. Before we get into that, lots of your WhatsApp voice notes from the open line. Yeah, too many of them you've sent through this morning. So I know there's always many people complaining on the WhatsApp line. You never play out my voice note. You don't play my voice note. And I'm telling you, the producers do so much work to try and process as many of them as they can. But sometimes we do just have so many of you wanting to contribute to the conversation, which we appreciate. So please don't get too upset if your voice note is not the one played today. Maybe it will be the one played tomorrow.
Morning, Cathy. This is Zanele in Durban. This morning I've called SRD Grant Helpline to inquire about the link that they're supposed to send for identity verification, which I'm waiting for it for about 6 weeks. So the guy who helped me this morning take me through the terms and conditions whilst I'm waiting for that SMS with a link. One of those terms is that I should have the phone that has only one SIM card if it is a dual SIM card, because if they send the SMS find two SIM card, it's just bounce back. That shows the difficulties that is faced by the people, us who are the recipient of this grant. Because tell me if it's a person who don't have even the smartphone. Tell me.
SAFM and the listeners, I think some of the political organizations, they must just using some common sense. Like MK, how can they just like wasting the money by fighting for this with GNU? Really, is that money? That money they're going to waste on the lawyers and others going up and down. They should have like maybe at least boosting their members who voted hardly with their, with their love for that party. Some of the things, so the political party, they don't even mind to finish the term, keep on going to court for useless thing.
Good morning, Sis Cathy. This is Mbongo Sonisa Palindulo. Sis Cathy, what is wrong with ANC and the Eastern Cape. I don't know why we people like from Eastern Cape keeps on voting for ANC. You see, this year they are closing 1,000 schools. All the people of the Eastern Cape are moving to Western Cape. I think Helen Zille was correct when she was saying part of the budget or some of the budget that comes from the National Treasury must go to Western Cape, because it's an exodus. All people from Eastern Cape, almost 90% are relocating to Western Cape, only coming during like holidays like June, December. It is so sad, but they keep voting for ANC. I don't know why.
Good morning, Cathy. Lennon Khwedi here. Cathy, my advice to Nhlamulo Ndlela is that Nhlamulo, you are too smart, my brah. You are too smart. You know how to speak English. You can read everything. You understand everything. You are clever. You are clever than anybody in this country, including Jacob Zuma. You and him have met because you are clever, both of you, and you know that you understand the language much more better than anybody in this country, including the Constitution. But this line of your contest, you're contesting about something that is useless, man. The name, it's useless. You were called in to be part of it. You refused. You refused to be part of it. But now, what is the complaint now? Tomorrow you'll be complaining about chickens and pigs here. Come on, Baba. Cooler, man.
All right, so those were just some of your voice notes. Well, some of our listeners have been sharing their concern and distress surrounding the closure of public schools, and if this decision is going to compromise the learning outcomes of affected pupils. Last month, the Department of Education in the Western Cape announced that they intend closing 100... let me try that again. No, man, no. You see now, my team is already laughing at me. No, I'm not having a struggle with numbers. Last week, the Department of Education in the Eastern Cape announced they intend on closing 1,142 schools. It's due to dwindling learner attendance numbers. The MEC of Education, Fundile Gade, announced this as part of the Rationalization and Alignment Program, which was gazetted in August 2021. The consultation process with the affected schools and communities has officially begun. According to the National Department, 1,503 schools in the country have been permanently closed down since 2001. Now, while many of these rationalization and alignment programs are not new, the initiatives are often aimed at restructuring the school system for effective resource allocation, particularly at public schools. There have been similar initiatives undertaken in KwaZulu-Natal, the Western Cape. This was especially after the COVID-19 pandemic. Today we are unpacking the implications of this decision and hearing then from the various voices represented. Vuyiseka Mboxela is the spokesperson for the Department of Education in the Eastern Cape. Vuyiseka, good morning.
Morning, Cathy, and morning to the SAFM listeners and the team.
Malibongwe Ntame is the provincial chairperson for SATU in the Eastern Cape. Malibongwe, good morning.
Morning, Cathy, and morning to the people of the SAFM.
Hendrik Makaneta is an education specialist. Hendrik, good morning to you.
Good morning, Cathy, and to the listeners. Thank you very much for hearing me.
And Matakanyan is the chairperson of the National Association of School Governing Bodies. Matakanyi, good morning.
Good morning, Cathy. Good morning, all the listeners and my fellow panelists there. Cathy, I'm not the chairperson, I'm the General Secretary of National Association of School Governing Bodies.
All right, thank you. Thank you for that correction.
Yes.
So, Vuyiseka, Perhaps let's begin this conversation with you. An announcement of 1,142 schools, public schools, that are set to be closed down in your province. Why?
Thank you very much, Cathy. I think maybe let me take a punch on this one and say how the first news platform talked about this, presented it in a manner that which would have not wished to say it, so that it can have a proper context. Because it's not necessarily a closure, Cathy. It's identifying schools that are unviable, schools that are having lower numbers, and schools that have got infrastructural problems. And that number then escalated to 1,000 and plus, as you have mentioned. But those schools, it's not as if tomorrow or the following year or 2 years from now they will be closed. Some will be realigned in a manner that which will bring them more numbers. Others will have curriculum redesigned, and then others will have to be completely closed. And the total number that has been identified for the three categories, it's the 1,000 that we're speaking about. And also, there's one thing that maybe I must raise, is that these schools are schools that are as a result of two fundamental things. One, the migration, and two, the geographical location of a school. For an example, we've got a school that is called Manaleni in Port St. John's. That school, even if it can match one of the three categories, which is maybe a closure, you can't close that school because of the geographical location of the school. And that geographical location of the school talks to the road access to the school, that's one, and also talks to the fact that the area itself has got a very low number of community members without them being at school. And the other thing then that gets to be central in taking a decision is, one, are we having a school for the sake of having a school, or having a school for an understanding that in terms of the cognitive development of learners, as a department, we are satisfied that it is taking place. Now, some of these schools are schools that are existing in terms of walls, but in terms of what is happening inside, you can then say you are certain that cognitive development is going to be reached. And unfortunately, currently the policy of the Department General of Basic Education suggests that in order for you to give proper provisioning of teachers and also give financial support to each and every school, you must then have a significant or a particular number of learners in each school. For an example, for a primary school, you must have 120, and then for a high school, you must start from having 200 and above. And then when a school then is not having any of that number, it therefore means when you say 1:35, you are then going to have schools that are going to have 3 teachers. And in terms of delivery of curriculum, it therefore means that there are 2 things that are happening. One, there are teachers that are teaching more than 4 subjects, and also there are learners that are not receiving the best quality education as you would wish to deliver as the department. So those are some of the things that are looked at as it and when we decide to reshape the curriculum and to reshape the schooling system in the province. And as of now, the 1,000 that has been identified has not yet been gazetted, because each and every school has to be profiled and each and every school has to be given the much needed decision, which ultimately is to make sure that learners are protected at all times.
Vuyiseka, what is it that the Education Department has been able to identify around the migration patterns of residents in the Eastern Cape? Also bearing in mind that a lot of your learners are learners that attend no-fee schools. You have one of the highest numbers of learners nationwide that go to no-fee schools?
Critically, Cathy, is the economic opportunities. You would have heard and read from the newspapers that there's an issue of unemployment in the province and continuously is escalating. And we have already said that 70% of our own schools, public schools, they depend solely in the government support. So economic opportunities is the main driver for the migration in the province. And of course, as I say, that the measures that have been taken by the department of saying that part of what we must do in trying to retain learners in the province and also retain learners in schools must be to look at the nutrition, which is a reason sometimes of learners to drop. It is very clear that it is not something that is actually yielding urgent and positive results that we would wish to have. But what we know is that centrally to the migration of learners in the province and also parents is economic opportunities. The issues of infrastructure, they are a bit secondary to the main problem.
What is the dropout rate that you have in the province currently?
In actual fact, Cathy, it's a bit of a dicey situation because last year we have had a number of 1.6 learners in the province from grade R to grade 12. This year that number has escalated, but as it has escalated, when you make analysis of the two phases, that is the GET band and the FET band, you'll find that there are more learners that are coming back to the province at the FET band, that is grade 10, grade 11, grade 12. But there is a smaller number of learner retention at the FET, at the GET band, that is grade R to grade 7. And the reason why it is like that is because a learner that is in the GET phase is a learner that can be in any schooling in the province without a caregiver and or without a direct biological parent. But when it comes to the FET band, then the system changes such that we've got a bigger number of learners coming in the province, and we are of a view that the reason why it is like that, Cathy, is because of the output of the grade 12 performance. And then therefore it means there's a correlation that needs to be looked at thoroughly, and that will go back to what I said, where it relates to economic opportunities, because the more you retain people in the province, the more they will have their own kids residing in the province and studying in the province.
So Vuyiseka, just to understand then, you're saying that the highest rate of dropout that you're experiencing as a province is more in your primary education?
The more it is in that phase.
And what percentage are we looking at here?
It varies, Cathy. Because the beginning of the year is mostly different to the end of the year, and that is why there's forever consistent analysis of each and every quarter in the department.
Yes, but give us a sense of the dropout rate on average that you're dealing with as a province.
For an example, in the previous quarter, the dropout rate it was at 12%. In terms of the comparison that was done previous years. And that is a result of what I've just raised, that it's because of different reasons, centrally the economic opportunities. But when it comes to June and September, you'll find that there's a slight change because there are parents that would move from one province to the other when they get an opportunity to work in the Eastern Cape, others when they then transfer back to the Eastern Cape. So it's a bit of a fluctuating number, especially at the GET phase. Okay. But when it comes to the FET phase, that is grade 11, grade 12, it becomes sustainable. And it's because it's kids that are a bit old, that which can be able to stay without their own parents, that they can be able to be in a hostel without the care of parents.
All right. Thanks for that, Vuiseka. Hendrik, I mean, of course, we cannot look at what is happening within education and remove it from the context that society is in. So what it is that families are experiencing and what they're having to do, whether it's to be able to have jobs or, making choices about which schools their children must go to. In a province like the Eastern Cape, what do you think are some of the peculiar challenges? I mean, a 12% dropout rate is quite high. Even if that number is fluctuating, it's still a very high base to be working off.
Cathy, the dropout rate on its own is a cause for great concern, because our view as role players within the education sector is that each and every child should be able to get the opportunity to create a future for themselves. And the only way or the only viable way that we know of in which learners can be able to create a future for themselves is through education. And of course, even former state president, Nelson Mandela mentioned that, education is one of the most important weapons that you can use to even change the course of humanity. So we want government to relook at the issue of the dropout rates. I'm glad that the incoming Bella bill or the Basic Education Laws Amendment Bill has addressed the whole issue of compulsory education, which will now start from grade R, because currently school is only compulsory from grade 1 up until grade 9. So a learner can just decide to leave school at grade 9 level and then perhaps go to the TVET sector. So the fact that grade R will be accommodated, that is a good step in terms of what the authorities in the National Assembly have done. But Eastern Cape has got a wide range of challenges, not only the issue of dropout rates, which must be addressed. And I'm glad that the new minister has said that she is willing to tackle the challenges head on. But I think that the minister alone will not be able to resolve this issue. These are issues that need a multidimensional approach, whereby you are able to get all the stakeholders, not only within the terrain of education, but also outside. Because there are, as I said, it is not the only issue. We still have, apart from, schools that Mem have spoken about, we still have learners who have to, who face the challenge of having to walk for a distance of 10 kilometers just to go to a school. And in some cases, especially in the Eastern Cape, in some cases, there are learners who even have to cross a river just to get into a school. And that is why I'm saying that there are a wide range of underlying problems in addition to the dropout rate that we are talking about. And there are many factors, of course, that can lead to dropout rates.
All right. We're going to continue this conversation in a moment. We'll also be hearing from SATU in the Eastern Cape and, of course, the National Association of School Governing Bodies. It's now 10:30, time to take the latest news headlines.
Good morning. In the headlines, the South African Democratic Teachers Union says there's no need to stop the signing of the Bela Bill into law as it has passed through all the right channels. The Umkhonto weSizwe Party says the SABC's use of the Government of National Unity term is misleading and borderline unconstitutional. And Elon Musk says he's moving the headquarters of his social media and space companies from California to Texas because of a new law on gender identity. Details on these and other stories at 11.
Taking a look at your markets this morning, the rand currently trading at 18 rand 14 to the dollar, 23 rand 61 to the pound, and 19 rand 79 to the euro. Markets in Asia were mixed at the closing bell. The JSE mainly weekend mid-morning trade. Markets in Europe are currently trading lower. Gold is trading at $2,477, platinum $1,008 per ounce. The price of Brent crude oil is at $83.93 a barrel.
The European outfit want to interrogate African resilience, but Tanzanian champions are highly spirited to rise. German Bundesliga club FC Augsburg battles it out with Yanga SC from Tanzania. This is the Mpumalanga Premiers International Cup 2024. Do not miss out on the mouth-watering clash between FC Augsburg and Young Africans on Saturday, 20 July at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4, SABC 1 and SABC radio stations. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. #We love it here. Tickets are available at CompuTickets. Proudly brought to you by the TS Galaxy Foundation and SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Yeah, we can do this. It's been a long time coming. This deserves to grow. It's a great business. If they don't like it, someone else will. And fund me so I can expand. Maybe I can offer them shares. I need to retain equity for staff. It's going to be good for recruitment. Yeah.
Possible begins with that one great idea. When Telkom enables entrepreneurs to make their ingenuity a reality, we grow local economies. Telkom. Possible begins here.
What is Ushuni, you say? Ushuni has a musical gift and can transform a song. Ushuni can fuse folk music with a popular urban beat or tune. Ushuni can take us on a beautiful musical journey. Ushuni way to Gelo. Join us in unearthing South Africa's next folk music star. 40 talented contestants from around South Africa competing for the ultimate grand prize of 500,000 Rand cash and a recording deal. Angeke basikhone with Ushuni Womhlaba, starting 7 July, Sundays at 6 p.m. only on SABC 1.
The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
We continue the conversation on the Talking Point. For Citizens Corner today, we're looking at school closures, the education sector, and in particular the Department of Education in the Eastern Cape that has already cautioned its learners and parents around looking at 1,142 schools that are likely to face either closure, curriculum changes, or this realignment, rationalization based on decreasing learner numbers. We've already heard from the spokesperson for the Department of Education in the province and education specialist Hendrik Maganeta. Malibongwe Ntame, you are the provincial chairperson of SATU in that province. Firstly, what is your response to what the Education Department is planning on doing as it regards these schools?
Morning to the listeners of SAFM again. Let me start by correcting my portfolio in SATU, in Eastern Cape. I'm not the provincial chairperson, I'm the provincial secretary of SATU in Eastern Cape. Secondly, it is so unfortunate that we talk of closing schools, and in our understanding, this is a very sensitive matter for the development of a country and society in general. Hence, we defined schools as SADU, as hub of hope, hub of change and development for individual learners, to their families, and to the entire society. That's why we're taking it very serious and being a critical matter. The issue of closure of schools, it's a last option in education. We have agreed long time ago with as stakeholders in education that because of the structural and systemic challenges of the sector in Eastern Cape, namely the integration of three departments, previous departments, the former Transkei, the former Ciskei, and the former Republic, we need to develop a concept of restructuring our schooling system. And in that process, we agreed that our schools, because at a national level, there is an agreement of a two prototype system, wherein a school starts from grade R to grade 7, a primary school, and grade 8 to grade 12. But if you go to Eastern Cape, in Eastern Cape, we still have schools that are starting from grade 1 to grade 3. There are those that starting from grade, which are termed as junior primary schools. There are those that start from grade 1 to grade 6, which are termed as intermediate primary schools. There are those who start from grade 1 to grade 9, which are termed as junior secondary schools. And there are those who start from grade 10 to grade 12, who are termed as senior secondary schools. There are those who start from grade 1 to grade 12. That means we still have a responsibility as the stakeholders of Eastern Cape to restructure our schooling system so that it be aligned with what is prevailing at the national level. Hence, we agreed that our schools in Eastern Cape has to be rationalized first, has to be realigned, has to be matched. And if those processes don't find expression, then consider closing them. As what the spokesperson of the department was indicating, what will be the factors. Hence, we are saying that this is the last option. Mm-hmm. And it's causing panic to the entire society. If you start talking about closing schools, because we are saying you are closing a hub of hope to those communities. So hence, we are saying here that let us not, as we are being cautioned by what is entailing in those schools, let's start by rationalizing, realigning, and matching them. And in platforms where meaningful consultation is being done with the people who are involved. Remember, education, we declared it as a societal matter, wherein you have to involve many stakeholders. There are many stakeholders that have got interest in education. You will talk of traditional leadership. In Eastern Cape, you can't talk about transforming or changing or restructuring a schooling system without involving traditional leadership, because many of our schools are named after those leaders. So it's critical. Involve faith-based organization in this. Involve business sector people and teacher, labor unions, and many stakeholders. Hence, we have a platform in Eastern Cape that is not existing in other provinces, which is called Eastern Cape Education Advisory Council, wherein all these stakeholders are involved.
All right.
Hence, it is important that something of importance like this issue of restructuring of school has to be discussed in that platform wherein all stakeholders are inclusive.
Matakanye, it's quite an undertaking to, even if we're talking just about the merging of certain schools in a particular area, it's a logistical undertaking because suddenly you have some pupils that used to be close to a school that could well find themselves, having to travel to a completely different district in order to access another school that they now will have to be going to. What is some of the thinking that you think needs to go into this process to ensure that it is seamless, number one, but also to ensure that it doesn't worsen this already high dropout rate that the province is experiencing?
Cathy, thank you very much once again. We firstly would like to send our deepest heartfelt condolences to continuously children dying in our roads going to school, end up not accessing education. And we want to say it is time that this thing must come to an end because it is continuing our children dying in the roads because we don't take this thing seriously. We must take this seriously. It must stop. Then coming back to the closing of schools, Cathy, we as National Association of School Government are vehemently opposed to the idea. We oppose this idea in the sense that even in the bill, the current education bill, it is included there, and we opposed it, but they continuously putting into that to say this number of children, this school does not have this number of children, then it must close down. We are vehemently opposed to it. Maybe just to come to the answer is that we proposed that because this question of closing of it affects the poorest of the poor, the rural, the deep rural, because there is no quality education. And when there is no quality education in those areas, because what we mean by quality education, these children must get education that will make them live better lives by acquiring skills that will assist them in their lives, acquiring knowledge, attitude and values. And that is education, particularly when it comes to skilling. You have to skill. Now, I heard the spokesperson saying, well, these children are relocating because this place, that place, there is opportunity of employment. And why are we not creating employment? The opportunities in the deep rural, why are we not creating that? Because it is true that now these parents are moving their children for future and say, if they go, and in this country, there are largely two provinces. It's Gauteng and Western Cape. But you see, so we are saying, if then Western Cape, Gauteng, there is opportunity for employment, why are we not creating that opportunity for employment in the deep rural? Because it is true, Cathy, that as you said, this person is poorest of the poor. That's why government has gone down to start now feeding our children. Now, you are removing these children from the accessing education nearby. Then they start transporting. And we are saying as a government, we are going to give them transport. But along the way, you don't give them transport. And these children end up not accessing education. It is unfair. Then we are saying to the department, make sure that you create a conducive environment for quality education. And these children will not go. These parents will not take away their children, because the very education that they access in that deep rural is equal to the education that you access if you go to Western Cape. It will be the very same education that you'll get when you go to Gauteng. And this education is the same. It will provide opportunity for employment and all those things. And this is, Cathy, it's very serious conundrum that during apartheid, children used to move away from the towns, move away from the townships to the deep rural schools, where there were some boarding schools and some schools and all those things. Now, after the apartheid, tides have changed. Then the people from deep rural, then they're coming to the towns and all those things. And that was that freedom. And we're saying we are not opposed to the freedom of movement, but it must not be at the expense of the much sufferings of the parents, because they don't have money to do that. And at the end, then the government promised to give transport. They don't give them, and then that will also cause dropouts, as you are saying. It will cause dropouts because some instances, then these children are traveling in the bushes and then against the snakes and all those things, traveling to access education far away from their homes. We are opposed to that and say it must stop. Quality education must be created in every part of South Africa. Look, we are needing much of schools. We are calling to build more schools, but more schools are closing down. What do you do about those schools that are closing down? And as opposed to the money that you want to build more schools. Okay. We are saying this thing must stop, Cathy. It must immediately stop, and the department must go and research why during the apartheid were children moving away from the township to the towns to the deeper rural schools.
All right. Thanks for that contribution there. Yeah, quite a lot to also unpack from the contribution of Matakanye, who is the General Secretary of the National Association of School Governing Bodies. I'm going to take your contributions to this conversation. And look, I understand the problem that the Education Department is dealing with in terms of numbers in certain schools. But what is the answer when already the communities that we're talking about, and when you look at the layout of a province like the Eastern Cape, it's already so difficult to administer education in some areas, to now close off the few schools that are there to provide education to communities. What will the impact of that be? Is this the direction that the department should be going on, especially when so much else is not functioning at the level that it should? We can have that conversation. I'll take your calls on 086 000 2032. I'm back after this break.
The Rockets and Umkhonto Kashaga will speak a different language from Siswati and Isindebele when they meet at the office made of grass. They both understand that only victory will impress their fans. This is the Mpumalanga Premiers International Cup 2024. Experience the thrilling encounter between the highly inspired TS Galaxy and Eswatini champions Mbabane Swallows FC on Saturday, 20 July at 8 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC radio stations. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. #We love it here. Tickets are available at CompuTicket. Proudly brought to you by the TS Galaxy Foundation and SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Shopping sprees. Catching flights while others catch feelings. Shaking that thing while sipping on some bubbles on a yacht in Dubai. Some call it living soft. You know, ndofo. Tune into Sugar Baby Dating, a highly revealing documentary that lifts the lid of the sugar baby dating phenomenon and talks to girls who have a string of rich older men funding their lifestyles and the women that feel damaged by the whole experience. This Thursday at 10 p.m. Is it just a little frivolous fun, or is there a sinister side to sugar baby dating? Channel your inner curiosity with Sugar Baby Dating, 11 July at 10 p.m. only on S3. Open up. S3.
July is Film Month. KwaZulu-Natal Tourism and Film Authority welcomes filmmakers from all over the world who are attending the exciting festivities lined up. The Durban International Film Festival, Durban Film Mart and Isipeto program, the Simon Sabela KZN Film and Television Awards on the 20th of July. We look forward to hosting you in our beautiful province and doing tourism and film business. Join the conversation using hashtag SSA24, hashtag Beyond Imagination, and hashtag KZN has it all.
The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
Heritage, you're out in Gqeberha. Good morning. You want to contribute to this conversation on education?
Yes, indeed, Cathy. Good morning to you and your panelists. I am calling from Gqeberha. This is Heritage Zonela. I'm also a community activist here involved in various programs that have to do with community development. Right down where I live, in the same street where I live, there is a primary school called Javis Kamlana. It's a very historic school. A year or so ago, we had reports that the school might be closed because of the same problem of dwindling numbers. And when we inquired, we discovered that actually half of the school infrastructure is underutilized, is not being used because the numbers are few. And as a result, criminals around the area of New Brighton, when they discovered or heard that certain sections of the school are not being used, then partly the school started being vandalized. At some point, they even stole the main power supply cable that the school went without electricity for some time. So what I'm trying to say is this, that the less the school is being used, the more chances that the criminals will discover that the school is being less used, and then they will take advantage of that. But with that by saying that, we are not dealing with the underlying problem here. The underlying problem, as far as I'm concerned, Cathy and your panelists, is this. The people, the teachers, and the school governing body members who are responsible for these schools, their children do not go to these schools. It goes back to the same old question. Why public servants, like teachers and others, do not take their children to the very same schools that they work in order for ordinary citizens to believe and accept that there is quality education? If indeed they are committed in ensuring that there is quality education, you can ask your panelists right now as to whether their children go to either a public school or a rural school. Most likely is that none of their children go to those schools. That it is in that background that we have this problem. Secondly, before I finish, Cathy, is this. I know this is a competence of the public works departments. Here in Gqeberha, New Brighton, we've had quite a number of schools that were closed in the past, and they were left unattended, and the community destroyed those schools. They took whatever material that they could. Schools that could have been used in the communities for other purposes, such as small business development, people who need office spaces to do their businesses. Schools were left unattended and they were destroyed. What is the plan?
All right.
What is their plan?
Okay.
Lastly,
Heritage, I have to leave it there with you. I'm so sorry. Yeah, we're out of time. Apologies. Let me go to Lusiki Siki. Skara, good morning.
There is lack of creativity from the side of the department. Why are they not diversifying the schools? So we have Greek schools, business, the schools specializing in these landowner fields that now the government is keen to have. Why? We're having one mainstream sort of boring type of curriculum, an old one. Why? Because if we're having a diversification of landowners of the schools, we should not be having this problem, And here in the Eastern Cape, there is low level of morale from the side of the teachers who are just teaching our kids. Why? Diversify, a Greek school, sport, recreation, and arts culture school. Bring new minds, please. Thank you.
Okay. Skara out in Lusukisiki. Vuyiseka, then let me wrap it up with you. How long is it going to take for the department to go through this process of rationalization? When can communities expect to have some more concrete feedback around what the future holds for them?
It can be between now and the next year, June. The reason why is because, as the provincial secretary has said, that there's a lot of consultation that must be done, and of course that consultation includes them and also teachers that will be affected by decision taken to each and every school. And also, maybe I must agree with the last listener from the Sugisigi to say that part of what we needed to do as a department is to creatively redesign our curriculum. And it's exactly what the department is fused with. Part of it is to accept that there are things that we need to do in relation to teaching content, and also make school of specialization, especially on the side of agriculture and especially on the side of building schools. That is, those that will be doing building in their schooling system. And lastly, Cathy, let me tell you, in the Eastern Cape, biggest performers and schools that are producing much content for the province, hence therefore the outlook of the results, it's schools that are coming from rural areas. You're talking with a person now who is me, that comes from Mashiwane Junior Secondary School, subsequently Pagamani Senior Secondary School. Those are the best schools that are performing in the province, and they're in the rural areas, because the concentration of the department is to say, let's be leveling the ground between the have and the have-nots. And the fear that people have that, no, we're closing schools in rural areas, it's not there. We're not going to be taking a decision based on the location of the only, but also on what possibly do we think can be done for the best interest of the teachers, best interest of learners, and also the communities.
Thanks for your contribution, Vuyiseka, Hendrik Malibongwe, and Matakanye to this conversation. It's 11 o'clock.
The top stories at 11. Action SA ready to pursue the Lily Mine matter, and SADTU reacts to calls against the Bella Bill. A very good morning. Action SA says it is prepared to take the Lily Mine matter to the International Court if South African law enforcement agencies are not able to intervene. The party has called on the National Assembly Speaker, Togo Titiza, and the Deputy Speaker, Annelie Lotriet, to request that Parliament investigate and hold accountable those responsible for the 2016 Lily Mine tragedy. 3 miners lost their lives after a container that they were in plunged underground when the mine collapsed. Action SA leader, Herman Mashaba.
3 black lives were lost, and government is failing to really do its duty. Parliament has got constitutional responsibility to protect South Africans. They've got committees that can actually get involved. You can have a parliamentary inquiry into this matter as to why our criminal justice systems is actually complicit in this particular matter. Why the Department of Minerals and Energy is not acting on court orders.
Teachers Union SADTU says there's no need to stop the signing of the Bella Bill into law, as it has passed through all the right channels. This after the newly appointed Basic Education Minister, Sibuya Gwahube, called on the President not to sign the bill into law. The bill seeks to strengthen governance in schools by tightening certain sections which have created challenges for the sector. SADTU spokesperson Nomusa Cimbi says it would be improper to have someone call on the President not to sign the bill after everything that has been done.
The consultation took over 2 years, and I think every province was consulted. There were consultations with all stakeholders. There were public participation processes. We believe all the processes were undertaken to ensure that most South Africans gave input to the bill. So what came out of the bill, we believe, was as a result of the inputs from all stakeholders and citizens of South Africa.
The Citrus Growers Association says it has welcomed the decision to declare the Western Cape a state of disaster. Chairperson Gerrit van der Merwe says they've written to the Provincial Agriculture Minister to request that farming communities in Citrusdal be prioritized. He says that citrus fruit growers and farm workers have been the hardest hit by the floods. Van der Merwe says that the citrus industry contributes substantially to the Western Cape economy. He says the recent torrential rains caused the second biggest flood in the area in the last 2 years. He also says that the third time in 2 years that Citrusdal has been completely cut off from the rest of the province due to the damage that the floods caused to the infrastructure. Van der Merwe says that the community is facing a difficult time as there are already reports of shortages of some essential goods. A security guard has been shot and killed while on duty at Musina EMS station in Limpopo today. Health spokesperson Neil Shikwambana says the suspects attacked the facility, killing one guard, while the second one escaped and called the police.
Limpopo Health MEC Ms. Diegetseng Mashego is saddened by the gruesome killing of a security personnel who was on duty at the Messina EMS station early this morning. It is alleged that a group of criminals accosted the security personnel who at the time was busy mending the EMS station's gate. MEC Mashego has committed to work with law enforcement agencies to ensure that the perpetrators of these heinous crimes are brought to book.
And jurors in Manhattan have convicted the Democratic Party Senator Bob Menendez of corruption. He was found guilty in all 16 charges, including bribery and acting as a foreign agent. U.S. Attorney Damian Williams says Menendez had put his position as an influential senator up for sale.
This case has always been about shocking levels of corruption. Hundreds of thousands of dollars in bribes in the form of cash, gold bars, a Mercedes-Benz. This wasn't politics as usual, this was politics for profit. And now that a jury has convicted Bob Menendez, his years of selling his office to the highest bidder have finally come to an end.
The top story this hour, Action SA, says it is prepared to take the Lily Mine matter to the International Court if South African law enforcement agencies are not able to intervene. For SAFM News, Kemudupi Makhalemeli.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide.
eThekwini Municipality is excited to host the Resurgence Conference Durban 2024, an international investment conference themed Moving the Needle Towards Economic Emancipation. The conference will profile Durban as an investment city from the 17th till the 21st of July at Durban ICC. It features exhibitions, conference engagements led by global and local esteemed sectoral experts and several empowerment opportunities. Also featuring the Resurgence Gospel Fest on 20 July, headlined by American gospel legends Shirley Caesar and Bishop Hezekiah Walker. Sharing the global stage with international acts are local gospel stars Dumim Kokstad, Ayanda Ntanzi, Oli Mwango, and Mobi Nxumalo. Tickets are available at Ticket Pro.
The Arctic and Antarctic are the greatest and least known wildernesses of all. Magical worlds inhabited by the most bizarre and hardy creatures on Earth. David Attenborough travels to the end of the Earth, taking viewers on an extraordinary journey across all 4 seasons in the polar regions of our planet, north and south. Prey and hunter are caught up in the battle of survival. Meet terrifying sea spiders and woodlice the size of dinner plates, polar bears, seabirds, penguins and orcas, and learn how global warming is threatening this fragile ecosystem. Channel your inner explorer with Frozen Planet, Sundays at 6:30 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
Nelson Mandela once said,
"It is in your hands to create a better world for all who live in it."
SAFM urges you to identify those in need around you and to do what you can to make a difference to them. Tata Mandela went further to say, what counts in life is not the mere fact that we have lived. It is what difference we have made to the lives of others that will determine the significance of the life we led. SAFM celebrates Mandela Month.
The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
Samagedegi maginyanya lawan moko bala benyi bibarsa. Mane betunya besi besi Afrika don benere. D'ici ou d'ailleurs, nous sommes des enfants d'Afrique. Même si le ciel tombait, luttons pour la paix. Kon jamu Afrika, mom lañan. Mane jamu Afrika, moy suñu natange.
It's 10 after 11 o'clock. Welcome to the final hour of the Talking Point today. We're turning our attention to developments out of other parts of the continent this morning. Rwanda, the latest country on the continent, heading to the polls on Monday, and we are now on Wednesday. A significant portion of the vote has already been counted, and as things stand, Paul Kagame is set to retain his presidency for a fourth term. At last count, the estimated figures in terms of the results was that he had 99.15% of the vote. Sophie Mokwena is our SABC News international editor. She's in studio with us this morning. Sophie, good morning.
Good morning, Cathy, and good morning to the listeners.
Victor Khomoiswana is an author, commentator. Africa is open for business. Victor, good morning.
Good morning, Cathy, and to Sophie.
So, 99.15% of the vote. If we go back perhaps to the 2017 election, 98.8% of the vote. Sophie, is Paul Kagame just that good a president?
Well, it depends who you are speaking to. If you speak to people who support Paul Kagame and mostly people in Rwanda, but now when you look at the recent elections, where even people in the diaspora participated, he also has support. They will tell you that what you see, it is a true reflection of the situation. When you speak to those who are in exile, who left Rwanda, particularly those who are linked or who are people who are being accused of having participated during the genocide against Tutsis, it will be a different story. Now, the other issue that you must take into consideration, it is not his party alone. It was a coalition. Now, you have to look at, in the coalition, how many parties are there to put together this formidable performance. Let's take, for example, the South African case, the recent elections. When you look at people who are part of the government of national unity, combine now the percentage. If these parties had agreed before elections that we are different parties because of the electoral system, there's a presidential position and also the seats in government. For the seats in government, we're going to vote for our own people as parties. But for the president, we will vote for Ramaphosa. If you look at their combined tally, Ramaphosa would be sitting at more than 2/3 majority. So when you look at the Rwanda situation, Paul Kagame had support of other parties who are part of this coalition. Therefore, clearly, if it's your party, the majority party plus other parties, you will get a sizable vote percentage. Not sure whether it would be 99, but something that we don't look at is that you had other parties saying we are going to, for president, we vote for Paul Kagame, but we want our own seats in parliament. So there are those dynamics. Secondly, when you look at what he has done in Rwanda, whether you agree or you don't agree with him, the reality is he has developed Rwanda. When you look at 1994, a country was completely in ruins. And therefore people will say, hey, better this one. The last issue is the issue of security. That's fear and the scars that you might experience another genocide are real in terms of the communities and ordinary people. So people would say, we're rallying behind this person because for now there's relative peace, whether they agree or they don't agree with him. So when you analyze the Rwandan situation, you have to take all that into consideration. But the reality is he's got people who are really opposed, or he's got lots and lots of critics.
Victor?
Thank you, Cathy and Sophie. The point that she makes about alliance, the point is very important because it's, I think, the unity that he was able to foster in Rwanda that gets people to almost not see an alternate. I don't agree with that somebody should be the only alternative for a country for 30 years because there's a risk of concentration of trust and confidence and faith in one person. And we have seen countries like Ivory Coast, when the old man, Felix Houphouët-Boigny, left power, it was just a downward spiral. Mm-hmm. The question is, are there institutions in Rwanda that can sustain what Paul Kagame has led the country to achieve over the past 30 years? I think they are quite strong institutions. The Rwanda Governance Board, the Rwanda Development Board, the Ministry of Finance, but even more importantly, the Ministry of Local Government. They call it MINALOC, which is the one that makes what Sophie makes about security a very big priority. Rwandans don't care much about anything. Security for them is everything. And the reason is they know what happens when they are not secure, when they are not united. So if you listen to Paul Kagame speaking, and I've been to many events where he spoke, I asked this spokesperson or the head of the government spokesperson, Yolanda Makolo, I say, how do you write speeches for someone like Paul Kagame? She says it's very easy because the same things he was saying in the bush when he was fighting before 1994 are the same things he continues to say. And I'll summarize them for you. There are three things that everybody in Rwanda will tell you comes from Paul Kagame's leadership. One, he says to them, we are non-negotiable on unity. We don't want anybody to ever come between us or amongst us as the people of Rwanda, because we know what happens when we were divided along ethnic lines. So priority is given to unity. It's sacrosanct. Second, he says we are accountable to one another. Whether you're a minister, whether you are a politician, whether you're a big businesswoman or big businessman, you are accountable to the values and ideals of Rwanda. So when you hear people say Rwanda is the cleanest country, it's because when you throw something out of the window, it's not Paul Kagame who's going to stop you. It's going to be the regular guy who's going to say, what are you doing? The third thing they say is, we dream big. So I was at an event in 2016 where somebody stood up. He was one of the Friends of Rwanda at what they call Umushyikirano. It's like a national mass meeting where they update people for the year. And he praised Rwanda and said, oh, you have accomplished so much. I mean, when Britain was where you are 100 years ago, it was nothing compared to what you have achieved. The USA didn't have anything. And at the end of the 2-day meeting, Paul Kagame stood up and said, I got to warn people against praising us too much. We don't compare ourselves to where Britain was 100 years ago. We do what is possible in 2016. Of course, this was 2016. So my point here is, Cathy, if you are prioritizing unity, you're prioritizing accountability to one another, and you prioritize dreaming big, the numbers don't lie. Rwanda has had more than 20 years of successive economic growth. So I don't know. It's almost hard to believe that somebody can win 99%, but if you have been to Rwanda as much as I've been, if you have been to as many provinces, the 5 provinces, if you attended the election day in 2017 and interviewed people at 5 different stations, it's not surprising why he could win that much of a majority.
Victor, is the democracy and how it is practiced as incident-free as perhaps has been described in this conversation? Because on the other hand, Sophie raises rightfully so those who have been exiled from Rwanda. You also have within the party individuals that are often disqualified from participating in the electoral process. And Paul Kagame has been accused over a series of election cycles of actually using the security apparatus in Rwanda to clamp down on any dissidents or any potential opponents.
For sure. I mean, I've not met anybody in Rwanda. I'm not going to lie to you. Whether it's diplomat, whether it's politician, I've not met anybody who says democracy is a priority. And I've asked them particularly, do you not care that you are not democratic? They say, you know what? If you want to describe us according to democratic standards of the US and Britain, we don't really prioritize that. I'm not putting words into their mouth. They have told me that, which means they acknowledge actually that they will be subject to criticism because of how they enforce. That's why people have called Paul Kagame a benevolent dictator. But let me tell you this. If you look, Cathy, at the problems facing Africa, whether it's Sudan, whether it's Nigeria, whether it's DRC, whether it's... Do you think a Democrat versus a benevolent dictator would be preferred by many Africans? I'm talking about women who are getting used as instruments of war, who are getting raped, who are threatened with all kinds of insecurity, children who are being turned into child soldiers. I'm simply highlighting that priority is democracy is important. I'm not going to downplay democracy. But I'm saying to you, if you look at the problems that face Africa, many African countries, maybe that's why the people of Rwanda are saying, you know what, if you are giving us economic growth, if you are giving us mutual accountability, if you are reporting to us every year at the end of the year for the past 24 years, and if you are doing what you're doing for our security and you're keeping us safe, we will take a little repression, because there is a lot of restriction in Rwanda. No lying, no denying that. But maybe they say we will take that over democracy that will just leave us open and susceptible to all kinds of vagrants.
Yeah, Victor, I'm really glad that you used the phrase benevolent dictator, because it is often so closely associated with a figure like Paul Kagame. Sophie, there have been some people who've said maybe South Africa needs a benevolent dictator, in this country. Of course, how our democracy is practiced and exercised is very different to what perhaps you would have in Rwanda. And that's where it may not make sense. Because when we look at other countries, we look at what our experience is, and it's very easy to sort of take that and want to then impress it and analyze it through our lens and what makes sense to us.
You are correct. Let's take example 1994, where the country was. I'm talking about South Africa, infrastructure. Much as it was geared towards a small minority, which is almost the size of, in terms of population and numbers, of Rwanda. Now, at that time, you had at least trains, you had airports, you had ports. The infrastructure was not in the state that we see today. Now, when you look at Rwanda in 1994, there was virtually nothing after that genocide, no infrastructure. But now, when you look at the infrastructure in Rwanda, you compare Rwanda infrastructure to South Africa's infrastructure. I'm talking about the roads, even linking other countries, neighboring countries. It's better than what we have right now. Now, when I spoke to Paul Kagame in April, he said something very profound. I wish all South Africans, particularly the civil servants, are able to get that message. He said 1994, after the genocide, it is your country, South Africa, who trained our young people in terms of skills development. And we will forever be grateful for South Africa, because those cohorts who were taken to South Africa to universities, even paying similar amount of fees like your own country, not overcharging us as people from outside the country. It is that project that has given us the skills, that has developed Rwanda. So in other words, South Africa contributed towards the development of Rwanda. And therefore, you can see that the reality is that's where the issue of what is democracy, what do you gain in terms of democracy? We are a democratic state with powers and the judiciary independent, state and legislative arm, even us individuals having our own rights, including business. Then you go to Rwanda, you say, no, Rwanda has got challenges, as people are saying, Kagame is a dictator. But when you look at what's happening, so you have to tell me which one works for you, where you can walk at night as a woman and you are not scared that you will experience crime. You can't even go down there at the bus stop. You'll get someone taking your bag, moving from SABC just to go and catch a bus down there. It's a risk. Just outside the building office, how many people have lost their phones? I'm just saying, so it is that kind of a challenge we see on the continent and around the world, where you have democracy and democratic principles. Look at the United States of America. A president, nearly a presidential candidate and a former president who was nearly killed. This morning we wake up to the news that President Biden is saying he's going to review how the judiciary is appointed. They must have term limits because there's suspicion that the judiciary in the United States of America is more lenient to the Republicans, almost political. So every country has got serious challenges. So it is in that context that where to from now as a continent, what works for us.
All right.
But the reality is, I agree that having a leader for 10, 30 years, it's also not sustainable, because when he leaves office, what guarantee do you have if you didn't really build capacity that the current situation will hold in terms of security and development?
And he doesn't seem to be in a rush to be going anywhere, Victor. When we look at what is happening in the region, and particularly with the M23 rebels out in the DRC, there's of course been extensive work done around the role of Rwanda when it comes to the internal situation in the DRC. Surprised a bit, Victor, that there's very little, it seems, that has dented Paul Kagame's reputation in that regard, despite the fact that this remains a huge issue of instability for the region more largely.
Yeah, look, remember, when people talk about the DRC, they're saying the eastern parts of the DRC where there are lots of minerals and Rwanda doesn't have as many mines, but it is exporting. And there is a case, by the way, the DRC has taken companies to court. I think it's Apple or one of these big manufacturers. They are taking them to court using a Dutch-based law firm because they are saying you're not accounting exactly as to where you are getting your minerals from. And they are financing. There are conflict minerals in the east of the DRC where the border of Rwanda is. I don't have the facts there because I'm not a security expert, but I'll tell you this. The DRC is one of the largest countries in Africa. It gained independence in 1960. 1960. It still doesn't have much stability to speak of. And if you are going to talk about the instability of the DRC and credit Rwanda, a small country like that, maybe you are exaggerating. There are connections between Rwanda and what's happening there because of the Goma region, but I'm sure that the problems of the DRC go deeper than that. And that's why I'm saying, you know what, if you have evidence, you present it and you deal with a person. But again, people will ask the question, why would the people of Rwanda keep on believing he's the best person to do that? So if he talks about training, skills development, no. The drones that they are using to distribute medication right now, to monitor lockdown, to spray malaria, to control malaria, the game reserve, Akagera Nature Reserve, they got their big five from the Kruger National Park. They got so much from South Africa, it's scary. They just manage everything better. That's the reason why you should look at Rwanda and say, are there things that we could learn? Not everything, lock, stock, and barrel that they do is going to be worth emulating. But I can tell you this, if you told me to look for a model country in Africa on a balanced scorecard, Rwanda will be in the top 5 any day of the week and twice on Sunday.
We're going to go to the latest news headlines. I'm back with more of this conversation.
Morning with the news headlines. Kemudupi Makhalemele. The Trade and Industry Department says that to grow the country's economy, it will focus on reindustrialization and growing the export market. Action SA says it is prepared to take the Lily Mine matter to the International Court if South African law enforcement agencies are not able to intervene. And former Republican rivals have been paying tribute to the party's nominee for the presidency, Donald Trump, on the second night of their convention. Details of these and other stories coming up midday.
What is Ushuni, you say? Ushuni has a musical gift and can transform a song. Ushuni can fuse folk music with a popular urban beat or tune. Ushuni can take us on a beautiful musical journey. Ushuni way to Gelo. Join us in unearthing South Africa's next folk music star. 40 talented contestants from around South Africa competing for the ultimate grand prize of 500,000 Rand cash and a recording deal. Angeke basikhone with Ushuni Womhlaba. Starting 7 July, Sundays at 6 p.m. only on SABC1.
#SAFM Talking Point.
You're listening to The Talking Point. We're reflecting on the Rwandan elections that took place just earlier on this week. And so far, the vote counting coming in at 99.15% for Paul Kagame, who's now set to continue then into a fourth term in office. Sophie Mokwena is our SABC News International editor in studio with me. Victor Khumuyeswana is a commentator and also author of the book titled Africa is Open for Business. Vincent in Cape Town has sent through this message. He says, for anyone who praises Paul Kagame for developing Rwanda, it's an insult to Congolese people because Rwanda has been looting minerals from the DRC for years. If you don't know, shame on them. That's one message there. Another listener says, good morning, Cathy. Sadly, your guests have fallen victims of the Rwandan government PR campaign. They clearly have no idea of what is going on in that country. And that's from Emmanuel in Cape Town. Bramoro, you are calling us from Bloom. Good morning.
Good morning, Cathy. How are you?
I'm well, thank you, Bramoro.
Thank you. You know, I disagree with Sophie Mokwena in some of her earlier discussion, opinion. One, there is no longer a government of just a coalition, rather a government of national unity. Even if it's Rwanda, we need to get that on board. Secondly, about her assertion of development in Rwanda after the genocide and now. South Africa before apartheid and now after apartheid, the development differs. Maybe the yardstick that we can use to judge the development of Rwanda is comparing Rwanda, the current state, to some few states, countries in Africa. Example, Ghana. Since 1967, we had our independence. Currently, if you are to look at the development of Rwanda, it is very shameful for us to even compare Ghana to Rwanda. So this means Paul Kagame has probably performed better than the current president that Ghanaians are having. So if Rwandese went to the polls, plus those in the diaspora, and they decided to go 99.9% for Paul Kagame to continue the legacy that he has continued, it is only fair for some of us to support him. We are not supposed to be in Rwanda to witness what is happening. Example, we are not even supposed to be in Ghana to witness what Ghanaians are facing. You can check the inflation of Ghana compared to the inflation of Rwanda. Ghanaians are having more mineral resources than Rwanda. They are having almost every natural resources that you need to develop the country, but yet we are now relying on IMF for a single support. Rwanda, on the other hand, are like they are even better worse without the support of the international community. It hurts that some Congolese are even trying to brainwash us to make us believe that Rwandans are rather stealing their resources. In this 21st century, how would Congo even sit for a fellow African country to steal from them? Congolese are busy fighting against themselves, killing South African innocent soldiers who are bringing stability and peace in the country. So couldn't all these people come together to even make use of their own resources to develop their country? Instead of always, we used to brainwash other people, blaming people. In summary, let's support Rwandan president. Ghana's ex-president decided to make a mistake by leaving office, which is John Mahama. A new president in Ghana, Akufo-Addo, has messed up the whole country. This is a lesson that Paul Kagame don't want to relinquish power democratically. Thank you, Cathy.
All right, Bramoro in Bloom. Nicholas, you're in Kabeja. Good morning.
Good morning, Cathy. Thank you for taking my call. Thanks to the producers. I'm so pleased that you have Victor on the line because he's such a fund of information. And you're a senior journalist, also an awesome lady. I wanted to raise things about Kagame because, I worked there for 2 years in Kigali. And in 2008, 2009, 2010. And I referred a good friend of mine who wanted to, get some experience in East Africa to a job in an ad agency in Kigali. This guy went up there. His name was Leon Osmond and stayed there for 6 years until 2018 he disappeared. And having worked in Kigali and Kampala a lot, collectively probably about 7 years altogether. This was not unexpected, because my friend, a very soft art director guy in his 50s, he had been posting quite frequently using very South African liberation rhetoric onto some Facebook page, which was like Free Rwanda. So this man in 2018 disappeared completely. My friends in Uganda, in the Bagandan community, they contacted me, and to say that he literally disappeared without a trace is no exaggeration.
And hasn't been found and hasn't been found to date, Nicholas.
No trace of him, Cathy. This is not a guy who is some sort of Boer secret agent working for the military back in the day, or some broken down, ex-serviceman. This was a guy who, born and bred, raised on Mandela liberation theology, and I think he overstepped the mark, because clearly this Facebook page was very much anti-Kagame, but not violently so. Just reasonable statements. But one by one, the people on those pages have gone to jail, but not my friend, a kind of white South African guy from Bez Valley, just a normal, loving, and intelligent guy. His family sent a private detective. They could scrape together things. They sold their house and all this. The guy just said, well, his last whereabouts, none of his possessions are there. His passport has now expired. There's no trace of this guy. Nobody wants to talk. The places where he was working, people just shut down.
Sure.
And so after a 3-week informal investigation, I personally wrote to the High Commissioner, South African High Commissioner of that time, and received no replies. I wrote to various foreign consuls, no replies. And just to say that there is a different side to keeping law and order in East Africa. Right on the Congo, it's not for sissies. But the thing is, as orderly and as wonderful as Rwanda is, there is a tangible, crisp feel of watch your mouth. And it very much reminds me of the Mugabe days, where anybody in the pub could be a spy.
Okay. Nicholas.
And it's a tragedy,
Look, I mean, I'm sorry to hear about your friend and just that story that you've shared with us around what happened with him and his life. And of course,
we're still praying about it,
Yeah. All right, Nicholas, thanks for that call. He's out in Gqeberha. I'm going to play just 2 voice notes and then get back to our guests for their final reflections then.
Cathy, good morning. Sorry. Oliver spoke to someone from the region in Rwanda last night. I wish to get that podcast. But if you had listened to that gentleman, Rwanda is a controlled country. And of course, Kagame is, he will tell the media what the media and the world wants to hear, and view him as this savior. So, I know Victor is promoting Africa, but after having listened to what this gentleman last night told Oliver, it's not good. Teresa, Cape Town.
A very good morning, Cathy, and the panel there. Cathy, this is Marvin in Bloemfontein. Cathy, sometimes when you are a leader, you need to make decisions. You need to take decisions, decisive decisions. And if you do not do that, or if you do that, people call you a dictator. I think Paul Kagame is doing very well in Rwanda, comparing to us here in South Africa, where we have a consultant president who always consult, doesn't take decisions. Thank you so very much, Kat. This is Marvin Bloom.
Oh, those are just some of the views that you're sending through on this conversation this hour. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to pause it there, come back to our guest. Victor, let me come to you then to just give your concluding remarks. The conversation around Rwanda, even when there has been reference by South African politicians to, how clean the streets are and how the aspects of their model that we should emulate, it always draws very divided public opinion. So I guess no surprise to hear some of the things being said by our listeners. But
yes.
From what we have discussed, is it democracy, Victor?
That's not what I would use to describe Rwanda. No, it's not a democracy, not in the way that we would describe it. And that's why I started by saying it's not my assessment. I've spoken to very senior people in Rwanda government, and they have said democracy is not a priority to us. We prioritize unity, we prioritize mutual accountability, we prioritize dreaming big. Now, I agree. I'm a human being. There's no way I can celebrate the disappearance of anybody, irrespective of what they have done, right? Whether you are killed in an hotel in Sandton, and that is credited to the security forces or the supporters of... I cannot say that's right, which is why I said on a balanced scorecard. I look at the country as a country where Gini coefficient is 4.3, 43.7. That's a medium reading compared to South Africa, which is in the 70s. Inequality is below 50. Human Development Index is 5.3. It's low, but it's very high compared to where it was. I look at the labor force and, I look at the economy. For somebody to say Rwanda has been looting the DRC, the GDP of Rwanda, whether it's labor force, agriculture is up there. And the agriculture is not looting the DRC. Industry, services, 18%. What I'm trying to say here, Cathy, is it's one thing to criticize one element of Paul Kagame, and I won't back him and I won't defend him there because, one, I don't have the facts. Two, if what the people are saying is what it is, it's not acceptable. But I'm saying the main export partners of Rwanda, UAE, Kenya, Switzerland, you guess which is number 4? Democratic Republic of Congo. So there is trade between those two countries other than just the minerals. Most of all, lastly, Rwanda is doing very well in other areas than just minerals. In fact, tourism is a very big contributor. Everybody who watches the Premier League in England will know Rwanda is being advertised on the Arsenal jersey. Those are not things that are related to looting the DRC. So I'm saying to this, there could be a point about looting the DRC. I don't know, but I won't say they are lying. I'm not saying they are incorrect. But I'm saying to you, look at the balanced scorecard and see how the country has done. And last but not least, go to Rwanda. Judge for yourself. Go to Rwanda.
Sophie, you've got a minute.
Well, I think the reality is President Paul Kagame will have to do introspection. And this is what I said to him in terms of, in a form of a question, that how do you ensure that all the Rwandans are happy? Not only those that support you are happy, because you are saying you are the president for all the Rwandans. And that's where he has to pay attention to. And that unity will be more perfect if he is able to also accept criticism and dissent. Because you are a leader, you are a human being. The last issue is the issue of sustainability. You have this relative peace when you are there, but something is simmering. And the fear is that if you leave the stage, you're going to have a disaster. It's something that he has to look at, whether there is a room for new leadership with capacity to ensure that the country is in a situation where it is safe. Now, turning to the DRC, this is a very complex matter. And I think both Paul Kagame and Tshisekedi must sit down and discuss that problem, because it will not be solved by guns. It will not be solved by external people. Only Rwanda and the DRC can resolve the issue of the eastern part, because you have nations overlapping. You can't say Mswati must come and solve the problem of South Africa and Lesotho. There's this attachment. You need South Africa and Lesotho to solve the problems that they have. So I think Paul Kagame and Tshisekedi must put their people first and engage and find a solution.
Sophie Mokwena, Victor Khumeswana, thank you for your contributions. I wonder what you think of Rwanda. 99.15% election results. That's where I leave it. Until the next time.
The book reading. Please note that the views expressed in this book are not that of the station. Listeners' discretion is advised. SAFM presents another episode of The Door, an addict's journey, read by Simpson Kumalo.
I saw what it did to a couple of addicts at the center. I came to know that the stuff can actually give you psychosis. You could have bouts of possible madness. I understand the rationale that it is medicinal and so forth, but rehab taught me that you are literally one puff away from losing your mind or suffering psychosis. I saw addicts who suffered psychosis. 1 minute they are fine and handling conversations and engaging people and are being productive members of the community. The next minute they are laughing all by themselves.